At schools, and I'll be speaking with Gavin Williamson in just a second, the Education Secretary. Hello, Helen.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. What was your what's your view of the tier system, but schools specifically, actually?
Well, it's just that Harrow primary schools are expected to reopen on Monday, yet Brent, Ealing, Hounslow, Hillingdon are all closed. Now, where I live in Harrow, we use a specific hospital, which is in Brent, but a lot of Harrow people use it. And I don't understand why Harrow are expected to reopen on Monday and yet the rest of them aren't.
Yeah, well, do you know what? Who's opening and who isn't, and where the boundaries are drawn is an interesting one. It couldn't have been an easy decision to make, but it has been made. Helen, thank you very much indeed. If I cut you short, Gavin Williamson ready for us now, Secretary of State for Education, Conservative MP for South Staffordshire. Mr. Williamson, good morning to you. Where can people find out about their own primary schools and indeed secondary school opening times in their area? What's the best source of information?
Well, the best source of information is gov.uk. Obviously, local authorities are providing that information on their own website. But what we'll be seeing on Monday is over 85% of primary schools returning absolutely as normal right across the country. And you'll be seeing exam cohorts. That's largely year groups 11 and year groups 13. They'll be returning into every secondary school across the country on the week commencing the 11th of January, and very much hoping all other year groups in secondary schools returning on the 18th of January.
What support specifically are you giving schools now? Do they know exactly how to set up these testing facilities? Because this delay was partly about getting that process organised, and they've been going on about it for long enough, the teachers and the unions. So what direct help are you giving schools now?
Well, and Andrew, you're absolutely right to raise this, because this is a really important point of, this is how we're sort of taking these next steps to ensure that schools open up safely and securely. But actually we take the battle very much to coronavirus. And we're supporting schools. We're giving them an extra £78 million worth of funding to pay for any additional costs. On Monday of next week, all schools are going to be receiving testing kit, all the testing equipment that they need in order to be able to deliver these tests. On top of that, they're getting all the personal protective equipment that is needed. We're running an awful lot of advice and guidance sort of seminars for those schools, and we're incredibly grateful to our most wonderful armed forces, 1,500 service personnel who will be offering advice and support. And for those schools that haven't been able to get a testing system set up, I imagine this will be a small, exceptional number of schools, because schools are incredibly sort of dynamic organisations. But we have got a team of 1,500 service personnel who will able to help and support schools to get these mass testing programmes up and running in all secondary schools across the country.
And what does that testing say about staff getting tested?
What we're doing is we're making sure that all staff are going to be able to get tested as a result of this mass testing.
How often?
Every week. And part of the reason as to why we're rolling out this mass testing programme is to keep children in school, because I'm not sure about you, Andrew, but you've probably heard many listeners who've had those examples of their children have had to be at home because a friend of theirs has had coronavirus and they've been in that bubble. As a result of that, they've been missing, 2 weeks or even more of their education. I know both of my daughters have been in that situation where they've had to self-isolate as a result of one of their friends having coronavirus. So actually, by testing them every single day, it means they're able to stay at school, and we'll be doing testing of staff every single week as well.
So pupils in contact with a positive case now, will there be daily testing for them, or will they have to go home?
Yeah. So those children who are in contact with someone who's had coronavirus, they will have a daily testing to make sure that if they have coronavirus, they then self-isolate, they have a PCR test, they stay at home, absolutely following the rules. But if they're all clear, they're able to continue learning.
Okay. The lateral flow test, the reliability of that has been questioned. Are you comfortable that in schools a test which may only give a correct result half the time, a third of the time, some people say as low as 6 or 7% if it's done wrongly and administered wrongly, are you comfortable that schools are relying on a test like that to stay open?
Well, the scientific evidence points to the fact that actually by doing multiple tests, doing more than one, it actually is incredibly reliable. 60% reliability on the first test, over 90% reliability on the second test. This is why we're rolling out this regime, because it's not just about keeping students safer, it's not just about keeping staff safer, it's actually being able to roll out mass testing that's going to really benefit whole communities. It's going to, be spotting where there is coronavirus in a community, because every child is returning to a household, and if they've got coronavirus, we'll be spotting it, and that whole household will able to isolate and protect others.
It's vital to keep children in school for 1,000 different reasons, which I'm sure we don't need to go into here. I think everybody understands how important it is. Shouldn't teachers be further up the vaccination list than they are, given that schools can't work without them?
Well, we've seen the first wave of vaccinations and the priorities that have already been announced, and quite understandably, you and me, Andrew, were reasonably young, and God forbid that we get coronavirus, but we'd probably be able to deal with this and we're able to get through it. But there's so many people in much more vulnerable situations, as if they get coronavirus, they're most likely to be hospitalised and there'd be most risk of dying. So it's absolutely proper that we prioritise them first. The government will be announcing the next range of those people who'll be getting coronavirus. It won't surprise you for one moment that as Education Secretary, I always want to see not just teachers, but also the vital support staff get that vaccination.
But at the moment, there is no plans to change that and put teachers further up the vaccination list.
Well, the government has announced those people who are most vulnerable. It's absolutely right. Those people who are most vulnerable get the vaccination first.
Right. But that's not
But we'd love to see. Many teachers will be if they're in the vulnerable group, if they're over 50. But I would like to see it rolled out much further, and the whole of government is really focused on rolling out this vaccination programme, millions of doses going into millions of arms over the next few months.
Vicky's in Norfolk. She has a question. Well, not a question, just an observation, really. My daughter's rural Norfolk primary school, 100 pupils, suffered a terrible COVID outbreak over Christmas. A quarter of pupils have come down with it, 7 staff members as well. How can it be made to open on the 4th of January?
Yeah, well, we're always working with schools, because right across the country, schools, whether it's in Norfolk, whether it's in Staffordshire and Wolverhampton, whether it is up in the northeast or the sort of northwest of England, we've all had to deal with this. And, schools have sometimes had to take an extra couple of days in order to be able to get ready. But we've seen 99% of schools open all the way through
but
from
she
the
doesn't
summer.
Yeah, she doesn't feel comfortable sending her 10-year-old to school in circumstances like that, even if the school does open. You're not going to go around prosecuting people for that, are you?
Schools are an incredibly safe place, and actually children
not this
really
one, is it, at the
benefit
moment?
from children benefit incredibly from being in school. But we've always been clear.
Not in a
that,
school full of COVID, though, because there's a quarter of pupils.
School is mandatory.
Yeah, school's mandatory, but you're not going to go around prosecuting people if they make their own decision in a situation like this not to send their 10 or 11-year-old to school, are you?
Well, you know very well, as most of you listeners do, schools operate a system of discretion. We want to see pupils in school. Children really benefit from being in school. Children actually get the greatest opportunities from being in school. That's why we put so much resource, so much effort in keeping them open.
Do you see where we are at the moment with some 44 million people now in Tier 4, 78% of the population of England alone? This is a lockdown, isn't it?
the reason that we got for tiered structure is to make sure that areas that we need to take extra action on that we can do, but we want to see areas moving down those tiers as rapidly as possible. It's right that if an area doesn't need to be in tier 4 and have those those restrictions, it's right that it isn't having those restrictions imposed on it.
All right. Well, Gavin Williamson, thank you very much indeed. A happy new year to you. 3 minutes past 8, the Education Secretary there. Your views on that, 0345 60 60 973. After the news, I want to know, does the vaccine news give you hope that the end is in sight? It's quite difficult for me to sum up too much optimism today, but I will try to cheer up. And later on, Sir Lewis Hamilton, it will be very shortly. We'll take a look at the honours list. Is it time for that to go, or do you approve? I don't see how anybody can not think that he deserves a knighthood if there is such a system. 3 minutes past 8, this is LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the government is urging everyone in England to stay at home